welcome back to Kimmel and Cox, your source for all things entertainment. I'm Keith Cox. I'm joined, as always, by my good friend Dylan Kimmel. Happy New Year!
Yes, Happy New Year!
I can't believe it's already 2023.
I know.
You know what the worst part about getting into a new year is learning to write the new year whenever you're writing the date down. That's always like the part that gets me is it's like I feel like I just got used to writing 2022 and now it's 2023.
Now it's 2022. Yeah, I had it the other day. I was writing on in my little journal and 2020 January 1st, 2020. Oh, no. Scratch that out.
So how was your New Year's? What did you end up doing?
It went really well. I ended up going on a little bit of an adventure. I decided I'd go and just explore. I didn't go and the other night
didn't go to any parties or anything like that.
Not really. I mean, I did go to certain towns and stuff and started looking around and everything, but I didn't really party any.
Yeah.
I'm not much into I'm not in the party scene really.
I'm out of the party phase myself too. Cynthia and I ended up just having a quiet evening at home. It was really just the two of us. Our youngest daughter, Kelsey, was there too, but she's a big gamer, so she was upstairs playing video games. But she stayed up till midnight so that she could wish us a happy new year and everything. But yeah, we just chilled there at the house and watched some of the New Year's Eve specials that were going on. Of course, the classic, the Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve on ABC, which it's not what it used to be. It's not like most of the time I don't even know the artists that are on there anymore.
Right.
So that we weren't really digging that, and then we switched it over to the Miley Cyrus New Year's special that she was doing with Dolly Parton. We thought we'd check that out for a little bit, and then we were kind of like, so we were just like going back and forth and watching different specials and seeing like who the musical performers were on there and all that.
I must be so out of the loop because I did not even know that Miley Cyrus and Dolly Parton were doing something together on New Year's Eve.
Well, she's
Dolly is
actually
granddaughter.
Yeah, Miley's,
or not granddaughter, goddaughter.
Yeah.
Probably old enough to be granddaughter, but
we still had a good evening. We went out and got some wine and did a little toast at midnight and all that good stuff. So it was a nice evening. But anyway, if you missed last week's episode, be sure to check that out. We talked about the Knives Out franchise, the series of murder mystery movies starring Daniel Craig as Detective Benoit Blanc. And those are both really enjoyable movies, and so we enjoyed that a lot.
Yes, they're quite fun. I do enjoy them. They're really good.
He had a little bit of like a foghorn leghorn Southern accent going on. It's like I say, boy.
I see.
But no, those were both really fun movies. So be sure to check out that episode. And just want to remind everybody again, be sure to follow us on all of our socials. We'll have those links down below for you in the video's description and on the bottom of your screen as well. And be sure to not only subscribe, like, and share, which is the three big things for us. It's going to help us out a lot to really keep this podcast going and building up a following and all of that. But we want to hear from you. This is not just about us discussing our favorite movies and shows or actors or whatever. We want you to join in on the discussion with us.
Oh yes, please leave your comments and stuff, and get in on the action. We want to hear from you.
Yeah, leave those comments on the on the YouTube videos or on our socials, and we will do our best to look at those and maybe even talk about some of those questions while we're recording, the current week's episode. And be sure to check us out too. You can also listen to us on a lot of different platforms, and again, we will have those links for you on the bottom of your screen. So check those out as well. But today's episode, we are going to be discussing a movie that just came out actually a couple of months ago. It is called The Fabelmans, which, according to the synopsis, is loosely based on director Steven Spielberg's childhood from the ages of 7 to 18, and dealing with not only his family, what it was like growing up in his family, but it's a sort of a coming-of-age story too, and how he came to decide that he wanted to be a filmmaker at a very young age. So let's get into The Fabelmans. Dylan, what were some of your initial impressions going into the movie when you saw it?
Well, I'll start with actually when I first saw the trailers. I know you had a hard time actually. You didn't even see the trailers for it.
Yeah, I had not seen any trailers for it. Didn't really know about the movie because it didn't get a wide release.
Mm-hmm.
It was only released in select theaters. So I until you had mentioned it, I had no idea that the movie existed.
It's very odd for a Steven Spielberg film too. No one even knowing.
Right. I mean, he usually does everything big.
Yeah. Well, when I saw the trailer, I went to go see the remastered of Avatar. I believe it was the remaster of Avatar. No, it might have been a different movie. It might have been Black Panther. Anyways, I went to go see it. The trailer came up, and I felt this weird sense of deja vu. Like, this feels like me in a way, right? It felt very personal in a way. Now,
you could see some parallels in his story with yours, because obviously, you want to be a director. That's something mm-hmm. that you knew you wanted to do from a very early age.
Yeah, and in a similar way that he changed the names of the characters to the Fabelmans instead of it being the Spielbergs. I get the sense of me just saying I felt like I saw myself, and I'm kind of lenient on the whole. The reason why he changed it is because he didn't want to seem narcissistic.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I'd feel the same way just saying that alone. Like, I felt that there was some personal things in there about me, because I feel like that's kind of narcissistic of me to say something like that. And when I watched it, I kind of teared up. I was like, this is me. Anyone who wants to know who I am would just have to watch this movie to actually, if they want to know me.
Yeah.
I'm not Jewish, but similar to Steven Spielberg, I was bullied in school.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think with a really good movie, we can always mm-hmm. take something out of that we can relate to, or find mm-hmm. something that applies to our lives and mm-hmm. our stories.
Yeah. Like I've said many times, a movie is just looking into someone's soul, basically.
I think it's very often a mirror. It's sort of a reflection, mm-hmm. Sometimes of our lives, or look into other people's lives.
And honestly, I'd have to say with the Fabelmans, it was a big fat mirror for me. It was a huge mirror. So I even messaged my mom and my dad and saying, this is me. This is absolutely me. And my mom messaged me back saying, it is you. Mm. That's just from the trailer alone. And crying from a trailer.
Yeah. It's like you know the movie is going to be outstanding if you're already that moved, just by a trailer. So
yeah, and I was, and then I went and saw the movie, and like we mentioned, it was a very slim release, and I was the only one in the theater for maybe a great chunk of the trailers. Right, and then just before that movie started, I said it before we started recording, that I sat there and I started thinking to myself, well, I guess I could, get on my phone a little bit here on social media and, just start, scrolling through and, looking up stuff. Most of the time when I'm watching a movie, it has something to do with the movie itself. So some part of my brain is not actually focusing on what's in front of me. Mm-hmm. It's only like halfway there. Like, okay, yeah, I understand what's going on here. Yeah. But there's no connection with the movie.
Yeah.
Now, but there was some sort of divine intervention because there was one person that just came in and sat right behind me, not even in front of me, where I could have been on my phone.
Yeah.
And he not know. I was in front and he was behind, which means I can't have my phone out. This guy, I respect the people in the movie theater, unlike some people.
Yeah.
So I was like, I can't have my phone out. I have to watch it.
You can't distract someone else from their movie-going experience. You don't want to be that person, that their phone's going off and all that. So,
and me and him being the only person there, he would be inclined to call me out on it too, I'd say.
But so the official synopsis of the movie reads as follows. Growing up in post-World War II era Arizona, young Sammy Fabelman, who is supposed to be Steven Spielberg, aspires to become a filmmaker as he reaches adolescence, but soon discovers a shattering family secret and explores how the power of films can help him see the truth. And I think that's a really good, sums up the movie really well. And just a little disclaimer before we go any further, and we've mentioned this before, we are not a spoiler-free podcast. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, don't go any further. Don't watch any further. Go watch the movie, then come back and watch the rest of this episode, because we're going to be giving away a lot of plot points as we discuss the movie. So
now, I don't think that was much of an issue with the first couple of episodes because they were older movies.
Yeah, you, at least the assumption is with movies like Indiana Jones, you assume that more people have probably seen those movies than something like this.
Yeah.
But love the opening of the movie. The movie opens with young Sammy Fabelman at the age of 7, who is seeing his first movie with his parents. And the movie that they happen to be watching is called The Greatest Show on Earth, which actually is a movie that I have not seen myself.
I've not seen it either.
But just based on the clips that they showed from the movie, I was like, I'm kind of want to check that out now, because this was in 1952 is where the movie starts. And I was thinking, from what I saw of that movie, like being made in the 50s, it had some pretty cool like action sequences for that time period. It looked like they used some kind of revolutionary effects, for that time period. So I can see why Sammy or Steven was greatly affected by that, by those images on the screen, and seeing that train crash and how that impacted him. It was like, seeing that on the big screen, like it was frightening to him at first, but it stuck with him. And it was like he couldn't forget it. He couldn't forget those images. And that ultimately inspired him to want to make films himself, because he was scared, but at the same time fascinated by that.
Yeah.
And eventually he ends up, because he and his family are Jewish, and so they celebrate Hanukkah, and so they get a gift for each day of Hanukkah, and he decides that he wants a train set, a little toy train set for Hanukkah, and so he gets like a new, like one day he gets a caboose, and then another day he gets like a dining car, and then like
just slowly builds up
the different
till he
pieces
has
of the
entire train,
and he builds it up slowly over time.
Yeah.
And then he starts playing with the train set, and he wants to try to replicate that crash that he saw in The Greatest Show on Earth. But when he does it, because he's associating that with what he just saw in the movie, so when the train crashes, even though it's just a toy train, and he jumps back and it scares him or whatever, because he's recalling those sort of almost nightmarish images. And so then his mother gets the idea to let him use his father's video camera. Well, not video camera. I'm so used to saying video, but it was video back then. It was film, because his dad was like a TV and radio repairman.
Something
right?
along those lines. Yeah, it was like because they actually had like a whole garage full of TVs.
Yeah,
and,
I noticed that. Like he was a technician and sort of an inventor too, because at some point he was finding ways to improve this technology.
Oh, and not only that, but he was a workaholic.
Oh, yeah.
He was definitely a workaholic, which my own father, he is a workaholic. So I can relate to that too.
But yeah, so he borrows his dad's camera, and his mother gets the idea to let him film, a crash, his toy trains crashing, because the first time it happens, they kind of got upset with him, because they were like, you just bought this brand new train set and you're like wrecking it. You need to take better care of your things. And so she was like, you can crash it one time, and you can film it, and then you can go back and watch that as many times as you want, and then it won't be as scary, because you'll be in control of the situation.
Yeah.
And I think that right there probably planted, once he saw that and, filmed that, and then he showed it to his family, he saw their reactions like, wow, this is like really good. This is just a kid, who's doing this.
The birth of a filmmaker, right there.
Birth of a filmmaker, yeah. So it was really great to see that, how his journey as a filmmaker got started, and then to watch his progression, as he moved into adolescence and becoming a teenager in those crucial high school years, when you're learning all of these social norms and trying to get used to that. And I'm sure you have something to add to this too, that watching his development as a young filmmaker, it started out as him just gathering his friends and his sisters, together to make these little movies. And they were all just doing it to have fun. They were really having a good time with it. But then he reached this point, as he's becoming a teen, you can see the point when he is really starting to become serious about it.
Yes.
Because he's making this war movie with his friends, and he pulls one of his friends aside, and he starts giving him motivation.
Yeah.
And because before, this is not something that they didn't think about. His friends were not thinking about performance or what was coming across on the screen, but he wanted to see that emotion from them. So he pulls his friend aside and says, tries to explain the situation. He's like, look, you're you're in charge of this battalion. All your men have just died.
You blame yourself for it. Yeah, it's your fault. Show me that emotion.
You can't do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
You can no longer save them. And he, as he's describing this, he's starting to tear up himself, and then his friend likewise is starting to show emotion and cry because he gets it. He's like, okay, I can do this now. So they go back, they shoot the scene of his friend walking, through the battlefield, walking in between all of these dead bodies, and the tears just start streaming down his face.
And not only that, but he's just so into that scene by that point that he just goes off set.
Yeah, he keeps walking, and Sammy, as a director, he's so enthralled by the performance of his friend is that he's forgot that the camera is still rolling and that his friend is still walking. He hasn't said cut yet. And then, one of his other friends leans over to him and says, "Are you gonna tell him to stop walking?" And then finally he's yelling out, and he's like, "Cut, stop!" But I thought that was funny too, that he actually got so caught up in his actor's performance that he forgot that he was directing.
Yeah. I have to say I've probably done that a time or two myself.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing. I remember actually filming a scene at my house, and I kind of overheard my dad talking to someone. I don't remember if it was my aunt or someone else, but I remember hearing my dad overhearing him witnessing me directing. And saying, I never thought I'd see, him act that way. Like he's a completely different person when he's directing. That's kind of the sense that I was hearing.
Yeah, that resonates with me too. I think because I enjoy acting so much that there's a part of me that feels freer, I guess, than I've ever been, when I'm doing that, because it's my passion. It's something that I really enjoy. And performing also allows you to bring out aspects of yourself and your personality that, because you have to put a little bit of yourself into every role that you do. And so it allows you to kind of, in some cases, it can allow you to be an elevated version of yourself, or sometimes you're just playing something that's completely opposite of you, and so you sort of get to know, I guess, what that feels like, or getting in touch with a different part of yourself.
Right, maybe even a part of yourself that you didn't even know existed.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about entertainment and about performing in general, and I think that's one of the things that always appealed to me about especially the screen medium with like movies and TV, but just acting in general. It's just being able to have fun with those roles.
And another thing that is interesting about, especially with acting, I remember reading some sort of research on that, and it was that actors will. I mean, it's obvious that they crack into their emotions and everything like that. Well, actors are highly emotional because of that, because they have to be. So that's why some actors are actually pretty sensitive, is because they need to be.
Yeah, it can kind of be like a learned behavior after a while. For me, I have trouble, I consider myself to be a sensitive person. I can be emotional when it comes to doing it on camera, and I haven't really had any times when I've really been called to do that much so far, but it's hard. There are some people who can, cry on cue, and or the joke is that there are some actors that are so good at it that they can look at the director and say, which eye would you like the tear to come out of? You know, I've never been that good, you know, and even trying to think of something in my life, in my past or something that's really sad, it's still hard for me to show that emotion on camera, because I feel like it has to come naturally. It has to come from a real place. Yeah. And I feel like the actors who do that really well, they do pull it from personal experience. In
a weird kind of, it is kind of in a sad way too. You're manipulating your emotions. Yeah. Which is funny because that's also kind of what the filmmaker does to even the audience, is manipulate their emotions. I mean, I'm sorry, Steven Spielberg, but you manipulated me with that trailer.
Yeah, I mean, they're forcing, in a way, they're forcing your perspective. They're forcing you to see what they want you to see. They want you to feel certain emotions at certain points in a movie. That's why things like the film score is interwoven within certain scenes in a certain way, because they want to evoke a certain emotion. You know, they either want you to be happy and, you know, elated, or they want you to be really sad or really like introspective and to really try to think about what's going on in the scene. And, you know, and the visuals and the music and the direction and all of that, you know, plays a part in how you perceive the movie, and everybody can also see it in a different way too. So but getting back to the Fabelmans.
Yeah, we kind of went off.
Yeah, we kind of went off topic a little bit there, as we're prone to do sometimes. So the other big thing about this movie, you essentially have, as you and I were talking about this earlier, there are basically two separate stories going on. You have Sammy / Steven's coming of age story, and him discovering his love of filmmaking and watching that journey. And then the other story is that this shattering family secret that is brought to life because of his love for filmmaking. Yeah. So his mother Mitzi and his father Bert, you know, they're obviously, I mean, they love each other. They're very close, and they you know, love their kids, and that's apparent, you know, when watching them interact with each other. But we learn through this, as Sammy starts to make these little films, that his dad's best friend, Benny, who is played by Seth Rogen, in a role that I had not really seen him.
I've not seen him play,
do anything outside of comedy.
It's really interesting to me seeing him play this role, because it's so it's really has him shine in it.
Yeah, I thought he did a fantastic job with it, because, like I said, he's so known for these screwball kind of raunchy comedies, and to see him actually take a stab at a dramatic role, he did a really good job. He really hasn't done anything like that, other than, I mean, the Green Hornet, you know, was kind of because it's a superhero movie, so it was more dramatic, I guess. But he made that, you know, role, obviously, because it's him. You know, he threw a lot of, you know, his comedy, you know, spin into it. But anyway,
I didn't think that was actually all that bad, but a lot of people didn't like it.
I mean, I liked it. Yeah. But anyway, so Benny and Mitzi, which is Sammy's mother, Sammy discovers that the two of them are having an affair. Benny has been a longtime family friend. He actually looks at him, Sammy looks at him as an uncle. He even calls him, Uncle Benny. He's like an honorary uncle. But he starts to notice as he's cutting, editing his films, he's noticing Benny and his mother's interactions with each other and how she looks at him differently than she looks at his father. Mm-hmm. And so he has this moment which I thought was great, where he just, like, you can see the revelation, you can see the light bulb go off in his head, and he just he just steps back, like he's jolted by this realization that, oh my gosh, my mother is cheating on my father, and I'm sitting here watching it unfold. She says that Benny makes her laugh. That's a big, I guess, selling point for her, and why she has a different sort of relationship.
It's very heartbreaking, because you can actually see once you see, it really is kind of heartbreaking, because you're seeing that rip apart, but you actually also see that Sammy's dad does still love her very much too.
He does. He has a lot of love and respect for her.
I had watched an interview where Spielberg's parents were being interviewed together, and they were talking about that, as a matter of fact. And there's a lot of love from Steven Spielberg's father for the mother, even when they were older.
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking in a way, but but just the amount of love that he had, that he even even for like years, or I don't even know, maybe even decades, the father took the blame for the divorce.
Yeah, and it was it was so gut-wrenching to later on in the movie to watch that exchange when the two of them decide to divorce, and they're having to explain to the kids what's going on, and seeing their reactions, and they just don't, Sammy's sisters especially just don't understand. They don't get it. They're like, I don't know, if you all still love each other, why can't we why can't you just stay with each other?
Yeah.
And their mother's trying to explain that, I don't, I love your father, but I don't love him the same way that I love Benny. Like, she's like, I miss Benny. Like, I need to be with him, or I can't be my authentic self, is essentially what she's saying. And she's like, you all are going to be getting, a very bitter, angry version of me if I can't live my life the way that I want to. And of course, there's, as to be expected, they're looking at her as being selfish, for her decisions, for kind of tearing their family apart. But ultimately, they end up finding a way to reconcile with all of that. And even after Sammy's father learns of the affair, you can still tell that he loves his wife deeply and always will. So that's a critical element of the movie as well, and of his it shaped his development as a filmmaker. And I think it's probably one of the things that makes him made him such a great filmmaker, is because the best things are inspired by personal experience, and so he really gets in touch with people's emotions. And I think that's why so many of his movies tug at the heartstrings the way they do. Yeah. It's like there's like two sides to Steven Spielberg. There's the family man, that, like I said, that really tries to touch a chord in everybody, and brings out that emotion, and then there's the adventurous side of him that loves action, loves adventure, loves heroes, and he certainly made a lot of those kinds of movies as well that really pump you up.
Now, I do have a series of quotes, but before I get to that, I wanted to say some of that majority of what happened in the movie was true.
Was true, yeah.
Which is crazy. I mean, his mother actually brought home a monkey.
Oh, that really did happen.
That happened.
Yeah.
There is an Uncle Boris. Yeah. So, okay. So here's the list of the things that were true according to this. And of course, Steven Spielberg has come out and said that he won't actually state what was false in the movie.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but
the areas where he took
liberties,
artistic license.
Yeah. Did he really meet a girl that was a Christian girl that vague? It's vague. So, did Spielberg's mom fall for his father's friend? Yes. Did he find out from watching footage? Yes. Did his mother bring home a monkey? Yes. Spielberg's mom a concert pianist? Yes. Spielberg date a Christian? Unclear. Did he nearly abandon filmmaking? Yes, but not for the reason that was said in the movie. In the movie, it was because of the divorce. Now, that was a liberty. That was probably the one liberty that was taken, because it would have been... It does make it a lot more impactful when he comes right back around. Especially when you find out that the reason why... in reality, he nearly abandoned filmmaking because of seeing the movie Lawrence of Arabia was the reason why he almost didn't become a filmmaker, because he felt the bar was so high after that movie. And I would say that the bar was pretty high for that movie. I mean, my goodness, have you seen that movie?
I haven't actually.
That would have to be one that we talk about next time.
Yeah.
I don't, but. It's a very long movie, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It actually has a stopping point, too, so you can be like, I'll finish this later.
Sort of like because back in those days, if you had a really long movie, they used to actually have an intermission, like kind of halfway through.
Yeah, there is an intermission. Yeah. So they don't do intermissions anymore, but they certainly do with some of these movies. Yeah. Did Spielberg really meet John Ford? Yes, played by David Lynch in The Fabelmans.
Another great scene in the movie.
Oh yes, that was.
I won't give too much of that away, but it is definitely I'll just say it's a watershed moment for Sammy, aka Steven, and sets his feet on the path to becoming one of the best directors ever, and the advice that he gets from John Ford in that. So
yes. Spielberg on the movie, he says, I just wanted to tell a story that was completely honest to my recollections. So, to his recollections, meaning that it may not be completely accurate, but it's the best of his knowledge it is.
Yeah.
But I want to read a few quotes from some of the characters from the movie, and I want to hear what your takes on their quotes are.
Sure.
So one thing, now I'm not for sure that this was actually in the movie, but it was said by Steven Spielberg in an interview, and I just thought it was very impactful. Now, I don't recall if it was in the movie or not, but maybe it was. Guilt is a wasted emotion.
That's
it's kind of deep right there.
It is. I don't know if I entirely agree with that, because guilt can, speaking from personal experience, guilt can be a powerful driving force to change.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, I think if you've done something wrong, if you don't feel guilt or remorse at all for that, then there's another problem going on inside you. Like that's what separates good people from bad people is having guilt, having remorse. If you're a spiritual person, for me, I always have looked at, and this is getting off topic, but I've always looked at guilt as God's voice whispering in your ear. It's like your conscience.
Yeah.
So if you don't have guilt, you have no conscience. But anyway, that's getting off topic. That's kind of my take on that.
No, you're fine. For me, I was reading it as guilt as a wasted emotion, as in what's really being said there to me, anyways, is not the if you're doing something guilty or anything like that, but guilt as in feeling sorry for yourself for going after what you wanted in life, which is entirely different than doing something bad.
It could have meant that in a different way.
Yeah,
but
that was my takeaway with that quote. Now this is from the movie. Now this is quotes from Mitzi, Steven Spielberg's mom. You do what your heart says you have to, because you don't owe anyone your life, not even me.
Yeah, I did like that quote, actually. That it's a tough thing, because to say something like that, it almost sounds selfish, because essentially you're saying, your life ultimately is what matters. Like you have to, whatever it is, like you have to make yourself happy. Like no one else can do that for you. So in that sense, you don't owe anybody else your life, or you don't, if you're unhappy, like you're not obligated to be with somebody, or whatever it is, just for the sake of keeping them happy. So like, but then there's another aspect to that where, I don't know, like, you do have to consider other people, and it's a hard thing to do, because as humans, we're just naturally selfish beings anyway. We're kind of designed to be that way.
Yeah.
So putting others ahead of yourself is one of the hardest things to do. But if you can do that, then I think that sets you apart from everybody else. And again, it's part of, you can be a good person, but if you're able to consider others more valuable than yourself, then it puts you in a different category, puts you in a different level. But I thought that quote was really impactful.
Now, this quote, I think everyone's heard this one from someone. Everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, that was, and I do believe that myself.
Yeah,
I'm sure you do too. I don't think it's that saying has become kind of cliche now, but it's true. I think it's true. I don't think there are coincidences in life. I really don't.
I believe that any good thing happens for a reason. Any bad thing happens for a reason. Anything that is terrible in your life that has happened, well, it happened for a reason, because it may actually be leading to something good.
Right.
Good things can come from bad things. Bad things can come from good things.
Yeah. So yeah, that's another one that's great.
And now for the big quotes, the ones that really got me thinking here. Now, these come from Uncle Boris. Now, in the movie, they're visited by their Uncle Boris, who is this very thick accented gentleman who is kind of like the one person that you can't really read all that well. You don't know where they're coming from.
You kind of had to lean in a lot on his dialogue because of his accent was so thick,
Yeah.
and because like that he's saying something that is really meaningful, but you're kind of having to try to pull that, and he's played by Judd Hirsch, who is a great he's a terrific actor. Goes all the way back to, for me, the first thing I ever saw him in was a TV series called Taxi.
Yes,
in the 70s and 80s, which was a great show. But
that had him in it. That was with also Christopher Lloyd and
Tony Danza.
Tony Danza,
Jeff Conaway, Danny DeVito. There were so many great people in that show. But anyway,
okay. Now, family art, it will tear you into.
Yeah, that was good. That dichotomy between, your family and the people you love, and your love for the art. Your love for entertainment, and it has. The truth is that has ripped a lot of families apart.
For sure.
Sometimes pursuing your passions is risky. I think there was, you may have that in there too. I think there was kind of a quote about that too, where he talked about Sammy and what he was wanting to do kind of being a little dangerous. Like he compared it to being.
Yeah, here it is. Art will give you crowns in heaven and laurels on earth, but also it will tear your heart out and leave you lonely. You'll be a Shonda for your loved ones. An exile in the desert, a gypsy. Art is no game. Art is dangerous as a lion's mouth. It'll bite your head off.
Yep. That was pretty profound. Hadn't really heard it, put into words quite like that.
That was very powerful. Like when I heard that, I was like, it all makes sense now. It all makes sense why some of your family members don't understand why you're going through this. We're junkies. Art is our drug.
Yep, I totally can resonate, or that resonates with me, because it is like, especially on the performing side, like performing is a high. There's nothing quite like, working on a project and then seeing the finished result with an audience and seeing their reaction, hearing their laughter, when you say something funny, or crying, when you're crying, cheering, at something that, where you're having this really victorious, moment, in the film. And I think that performance just impacts people in that way, to where you just really get invested in it, emotionally. And the same thing with performing live. There's nothing like, actually hearing that and that response in real time, if you're doing a play or something like that. So I totally get that. I totally get that rush, the feeling that you get from having someone else appreciate what you've done. And we see that in this film when Sammy shows his war film to all of his friends and family, and they screen it, at a theater. And
he actually poked holes in the film to make it look like
that was I thought that was great. It's like because he thought that the gunfire looked fake, and he's like, I have to find a way to make this look better. And so in the finished film, you see all these flashes, like muzzle flashes, coming out of the guns. And his dad asks him, like, how did you do that? How did you make the guns look like they were firing? And he said, I literally just poked a hole in the film, the physical, film. Because for those who don't know, who are unaware of this, because these days, I mean, the majority of we're living in a digital age, so most films are done digitally now, but back in the old days, the good old days, I guess you could say, when movies were done on film, you literally had to take these strips of film, and when you wanted to edit them, you had to run them through this machine, and then you had to literally cut the film in exactly the spot where you wanted to make that edit, and then glue the film back together so that when you ran the film, everything, just the transition was smooth, and you made these, jumps from one shot, one scene to another.
Very tedious process, but I'd imagine it once it was done, it probably felt just as good.
Yeah, I remember reading in an interview with Steven Spielberg where he talked about those scenes, which of course were true, and he said that he misses that now. He actually misses the process of going through those films himself and actually, editing them, cutting them, and so he said that was an instrumental part in what made him love filmmaking so much, was just because he was so immersed into every aspect of it. But yeah, that I'm glad that you included not all those quotes, but I'm glad that you included the trying to separate the fact from the fiction, and telling everyone, because for those who want to watch the movie, it's helpful to know when you're dealing with something that's supposed to be based on a true story, you often want to know how much of it is true, which things are true and which are not. So I'm glad you chose to make some notes on that, because I didn't know myself which parts of the story were true. I know that from reading articles and interviews with Steven Spielberg, even though most of the descriptions of the film say that it's loosely based on his life, but from hearing him talk about it, it sounds like there's a whole lot more fact than there is fiction. The biggest fiction being that he just changed all of the names of everyone in the film, probably not only for their protection or whatever, because dealing with very personal things, but as you said, to keep him from seeming a little bit too narcissistic, like everybody knows who it's supposed to be about, so he doesn't have to be that obvious with it. Mm-hmm. And a couple of other things worth mentioning that I thought were interesting was there's a lot of bullying that goes on in the film, which I'm sure a lot of other people can identify with. A lot of anti-Semitism, which he experiences because he's Jewish, and there's some pretty raw moments, dealing with those bullies at school and the way they talk to him and the names they call him, and he gets beaten up a lot. But the funny thing is, so he gets chosen to direct a film for their his high school's senior ditch day, where all of the seniors basically skip school for a day and go to the beach and have fun and whatnot. So he gets tasked with filming all of that and putting together a little movie, which he ends up debuting at prom, the senior prom. And the ironic thing is that there was two guys that really, bullied him, most. That they were both friends or whatever, but I mean, they really just gave him so much crap throughout the movie. But then he shows this film, and one of his main bullies, because he catches him one day. He catches the bully cheating on his girlfriend. He catches him kissing another girl in the hallway, and he tells his girlfriend about it. Mm-hmm. She breaks up, with the guy, and so then from then on, he's really got it in, for Sammy. So anyway, he shows this film, and it makes, I've got to look up the character's name here. Logan.
That's it.
Logan is the bully. And so he makes Logan look like a hero in this film. They have this race, this foot race on the beach.
Yeah,
and he's like he's in slow motion. He's breaking through the tape at the end. He's won the race, and he's like looking around, putting his hands on his hips and looking very heroic, with his blonde hair like blowing in the wind. And so Logan becomes emotional watching this. He starts to cry.
He's not understanding. I've been mean to you.
Yeah, he doesn't get it. He confronts Sammy afterwards. He confronts him in the hall, and he's like, why would you do that? Like, he's mad. I'm like, he just made you look like a hero, but you're mad, but it's because he doesn't understand it. He's like, I've basically tortured you for the entire time that I've known you. Why would you want to make me look so good? And I thought his response to that was great.
Yeah, and the truth is that the bully is not really mad at him for what he did. He's mad at himself now because of what he did to him.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, it was that realization. Like, I've been a jerk. I've treated you horribly, and when he asked him why, I thought Sammy's response to that was great. He's like, I don't know, maybe I just wanted you to be nice to me for 5 minutes. He said, or maybe it was just a movie. I don't know, But I thought that was great, but ultimately they bond because the other bully. Give me just a second and see if I can. What was his name? Chad.
Yeah, Chad.
So the other bully, Chad, he comes into the scene while they're having
he
this
actually
adventure.
was looking like an idiot in the movie.
Yeah, he made him look like a total idiot. Like he was walking around the beach drunk and trying to hit on all these girls and
which in all honesty he was just filming the truth. Honestly, is what that's probably what was actually happening.
As he said, I can't help it. He said the camera saw what it saw.
Mm-hmm.
And but he comes in and confronts him and like charges toward him because he's made him look like a total fool, and Logan ends up punching him out. Like this was his friend who his co-bully. Suddenly the tables have turned, and so he ends up protecting Sammy because of what he's done for him, and they have this great little bonding moment where he offers him he's smoking, he offers him a cigarette, and they just sort of as they part ways, it's like there's this kind of playful moment where I forgot what Logan said. He said something about like more or less like he didn't deserve to look like that in the film.
Yeah.
And then Sammy's like, well, in the end, you still got the girl, didn't you? And then he like playfully he like flips him off, and then Sammy flips him off, and like you know that they're going to end up being friends after that, which is pretty cool.
I do hope that was true. Because there's something great about actually, fixing, what's wrong between two people. You know?
There's something about that, the power of forgiveness and of reconciliation and just showing that. That the human spirit can triumph. And I think that's a message in a lot of Steven Spielberg's movies, is that people can change. And that was a great, really great example of that. And, I'd like to think that was true, too. That was
maybe it was, because he did add in the line there, maybe I'll just put you in one of my movies in the future.
Right, yeah. Oh yeah, that's what. Yeah, because he was like, "Don't ever tell anybody about this. Don't ever tell anybody about this exchange." More or less, like, "Don't tell people that I was crying and all this kind of stuff." And he's like, "Oh," he's like, I would never do that." And he's like, "Or maybe I'll just put it in one of my movies." You know, it was like a little
tongue in cheek, maybe.
And another thing that I thought was just funny to me, but I'm assuming this was probably true as well, or partially true, but. Sammy ends up falling in love with this girl in high school, Monica, played by Chloe East, which I thought she did a really great job at the way that she played this character. But she comes from a very religious family. She's a Christian,
yeah.
So you have somebody who's Jewish dating someone who's Christian.
Yeah.
And two very different views on that religion, and
it's very funny. Is that a quote in the movie, or is that in a different movie? I can't recall. Where she's like, "Well, I'm Jewish," and she's like, "Well, Jesus was a Jew." So
yeah, it's and the other guys, the bullies and stuff, at one time are like when they're calling him names and stuff, they call him a Christ killer and all of this.
Yeah, it's just awful.
But I thought that when they kind of when that moment when she realizes that she likes him, and there's that one scene where they're in her bedroom, it was comical because she has all these posters on her walls of like teen idols.
Yeah.
Singers and actors and people like that, but then in the midst of it,
there's
you have Jesus. There's all these portraits of Jesus, and at one point she even says, "Jesus is sexy," and that made me raise my eyebrow a little bit there. I was like, okay, there's something off about this girl, like as like. That's a little bit blasphemous, to say like Jesus is sex. So it's almost like she has an unhealthy view of Jesus, and it's almost like she is, obsessed with him the way that you would be obsessed with like a favorite singer or
like a boy band or yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think
I think that even
lust after.
I mean, you could see it in Sammy's eyes there too. He was like, really? Isn't that?
But yeah, that was a really fun little scene, and seeing the differences between them, and then ultimately it doesn't end up working out. He thinks that he's really in love with her and wants to marry her and all, but ultimately we learn that on her end is just a surface.
Yeah.
A shallow relationship. She even tells him, she's like, I'm going to college at Texas A&M. You're going to California. This relationship is never going to work out. And she's like, you're a fun boy to kiss and all that, but it's like she doesn't want a serious relationship with him.
He asked her to marry him. Also at the very end there.
Yeah.
And that was the tipping point, I'd say, where she actually revealed all what you just said there. And it's like, it's just, you're basically just a fling. So,
but
I can't be with you because you're so focused on what you have a really good pathway. I can't be with you because I'm going a different direction.
Going different directions, which is a parallel with a lot of people's lives too. We've all experienced that, where you're with somebody and then you just reach a point where you realize, you know what, we're not on the same page. We're not heading in different directions. We don't want the same things out of life. And at the time, it may seem heartbreaking, but ultimately you realize that was for the best. Yeah. So the film concludes with about a year after Sammy graduates from high school. And he has written countless letters to film studios, TV studios, trying to get work as a director. He's gotten rejected a lot. he finally gets a letter from CBS to come in for an interview, and the guy that he speaks with tells him that, basically tells him, he loves his letters and, he thinks he's got promise. He doesn't really have anything at the time that he can offer him. But he said, he says, would you like to meet one of the greatest directors of all time? He said his office is just across the hall. So of course, Sammy says, yeah, I would love that. And so he takes him over to the office, and who we soon learn that the director he's speaking about is John Ford, who directed countless. He was mostly associated with the Western genre. He directed so many classic John Wayne films, and was known for being a very, revolutionary, sort of director. He had a unique method about him, but people really respected him, for what he did. So anyway, you just have to see the scene. I won't attempt to quote it because I will not do it justice. But it's a great way to end the film because Sammy/Steven gets to meet one of his heroes, and John Ford gives him an unforgettable piece of advice in that scene, and Sammy walks away from that meeting with his head lifted high, his shoulders lifted up, and he's walking among these buildings at the TV studio, and it's like he's realizing that this is my destiny. This is where I was meant to be.
And it all accumulates to this great ordeal of a filmmaker that is still one of the most influential today. And I have to say this: the crazy thing about the movie here is that the other interesting thing is that it does not paint Hollywood in the light of this is like anyone can make it, or something like that, right? It actually paints the truth.
Yeah, and I like that as well. That because so many movies, and the kind of movies that we grew up with, they did have a tendency to glamorize Hollywood and to kind of make this like, well, anybody can make it out here. But there are several scenes that dispel that myth by saying, this business will tear you apart. It's not. Yeah. It's not. There are in the grand scheme of things, there are very few people that really achieve a high level of stardom. Mm-hmm. There are plenty more people out there that are like, on closer to the bottom of the scale, that what I would call the blue collar workers of acting, the ones who they stay busy. They're working actors, but they never achieve that level of fame. Someone like a director like Steven Spielberg, or Ivan Reitman, or so many other directors that I could think of that that we admire. And same thing with performers. There's very few actors that reach the level of a Tom Hanks. So it's when you think about it, it's like, wow, that it really is true. There's very few, and it comes in cycles. Like every actor has a shelf life. There's going to come a period where they're going to stop, and someone else is going to come in and fill that that role. But
what I get from this movie is that it's actually saying this will. It's said constantly throughout the movie. This lifestyle will hurt. Yeah. But if it's your passion, if it is what you truly desire, go for it.
You got to go for it. It's worth the risk, But anyway, we are just about out of time for today. But before we go, just want to remind everyone to also check out our Patreon page. That's where you can go to support the podcast. Certainly you can support us by watching, listening to us, giving us your feedback, and things like that. But, Patreon provides you with a platform where you can actually provide a different type of support for us, because we want to make this the best podcast that it can possibly be. We want to be able to branch out and to bring you more content, unique types of content. We would at some point like to be able to have special guests on the show with us. That's certainly in the pipeline. But every dollar that you donate on Patreon goes towards the podcast, goes towards things like production costs, getting better equipment and things like that, being able to do things visually that we might not be able to do otherwise, with what we have right now. So definitely go on there and check that out. We have a lot of different membership levels on there, everything from $5 a month up to $100 a month. And we give you something in return for that contribution. There's a lot of really cool benefits on there. We think they're cool anyway. I don't know if you will, but certainly I think there are some things that we feel would be worth your while, if you want to help us out there. So next week we're going to shake things up a little bit. We've primarily been talking about movies up to this point, but we have promised that this is an all-purpose entertainment podcast, and so we want to kind of delve into a lot of different topics within that subject matter. So next week will be our first celebrity profile, the first of many. But next week we will be talking about the one and only, the tremendously talented, the one-of-a-kind Dan Aykroyd, who is one of our favorite actors, has been for a very long time, and has certainly influenced each of us in different ways. And so we're going to devote a whole episode to his career, so you're not going to want to miss that. I'm really excited about it. But until then, we hope everyone stays safe out there, and we hope you'll join us again next week for this very special episode. But until then, take care of yourselves, be good to yourselves, and we'll see you next time.
You dipstick.